Hey, welcome back to Design Elements and Principles. Hope everybody's doing well. Uh, let's start off with some housekeeping, as I like to call it. The first thing is a few weeks ago. I don't remember when it was. I don't think it's on here anymore. No, but a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, we had that missing week where there wasn't school for a week, or we like there wasn't Tuesday classes, and I was like, don't worry about the Thursday class, or vice versa. Or there wasn't a Tuesday class, and I was like, we're not going to do Thursday, but we'll come around to that. That's going to come up next week. So this is your, and I'll talk about it on Thursday as well, just to remind everybody. But next week, even though the school is closed Wednesday and Thursday, I will have a recorded session for you. It's kind of important. You'll be learning new stuff. And that's where I'm taking that one day where I, removed that Tuesday and we moved it to a Thursday. It won't be that big of a deal. It'll be recorded. I'm trying to think if I can record it in advance, but we have a all school meeting on Wednesday. And then, so I can't do it on Wednesday necessarily. And then I have a meeting Thursday morning. So I think I'm going to do it after, and I'll just let everybody know Thursday when the lecture is ready. And then you just watch the lecture. We're going to starting next week. So I'm just, again, preempting you. We're going to start changing what we're doing a little bit. You're going to get a new project added in. So normally we've done, it is Tuesday, we do the research and the book. And then Thursday, you do a design practice and then the project. We are going to remove the design practice, and now we're going to add in an actual design project, meaning you're going to be doing a poster and a pamphlet. And all that gets rolling next week at week 8, which is the halfway point. So week 8, we're going to set up some documents. We're going to set up an Illustrator document. We're going to set up an InDesign document, and you're going to actually start on the poster research. So just keep that in mind. I'll remind you through that next week is going to be a weird week, different styles of assignments. And then week 9, we kind of jump in where we're going to talk about the principles of design. And then you're going to be also working on a bigger design project for the rest of the semester. And we're going to alternate. We're going to work on 2 at once. It's going to be kind of fun. You can work on the poster for a week, and then you can work on the pamphlet for a week, and work on the poster for a week, and work on the pamphlet for a week. And it kind of that's the style sometimes you have to work. And you don't always get to work at one thing at once, or one thing at a time. So just letting you know about next week. Next week, there will be 2 lectures. One will be live on Tuesday. One will be recorded on Thursday, but the school won't be open Wednesday or Thursday. Actually, it is on Thursday, but you don't have to come in. So that is that. So, and again, I will talk about this on Thursday. I'll talk about this next week, Tuesday, and then Thursday next week when it pops up. You'll know to just watch the video. All right. We're going to be talking about space as it pertains as an element of design and creating space. Not the galactic space that you're thinking about, but space, and how do we make illusions of space and spacing within a design and how that makes people feel. So that's what we'll be talking about today. As always, do make sure by Thursday you have your attendance turned in. Let's see what the first one is. What is a mood board used for? What a weird word. So a mood board is collecting visual inspiration. So what we do with a mood board, sometimes we show a client a presentation page that has colors and fonts and imagery to help give the feeling of what our design is going to be. And usually this is done in a bigger sense, like if you're doing something for a brand, or you have like an event, or like it's going to be even something like per se, like yeah, a brand or event. I was going to say like a Valentine's Day promotion. You may preempt them with like, here's the colors we want to use, and here are some fonts we want to use, and here's some imagery styles that we want to use. What do you think about that? We call that a mood board because we're creating mood. So again, if you don't know what things are, just run up to the old Google. You know what I found out in this class? You know what I found out is I say this word so much that I was going through the Gemini and I was like, oh my God, every time I mention it in the class, my phone picks it up and it actually does a search. And I had all these searches that I needed to delete. They're just weird stuff because I would say, you know, with you all, I'd be like, okay, now go to Google, and it would just start up. So kind of funny, but look it up. Now I have to watch what I say so it doesn't, my phone doesn't keep doing searches on me. And it gives the feel and direction of a creative project. So I'll make sure you do that. Again, words we use in the business, and it's the way I keep attendance. I'll go over the space lecture, mid-session review. We all know if you just want me to look at this, this might be good coming up. When we start working on those poster designs and those pamphlet designs, this might be a good place to work with that. We have the space research project we'll work on, and I will talk a little bit about Gestalt, and that's how you say that. You know what? Let's talk Gestalt, and then I'll go talk about space. So textbook, I'm not going to talk about it, like just 2 minutes. Gestalt principles. Gestalt is the term used for how everything works together as one. So we're kind of showing it here at the closing of the section on the elements of design. But what Gestalt is talking about is how do we use all those elements and meld them together into a beautiful piece. And it's just kind of this weird word where sometimes if you hear about people talking in foreign language, it's like all things exist in interaction with other things. So it's like we don't have a better word for that in English. So we use Gestalt. Like we don't have a word that works for that. So it's how all things exist and interact with each other. It's a Gestalt principle. And that's how we put together all our pieces. And when we do a design, I was just reading this one. How many cars? I was like, wait, is this like one of those Google things where I have to count all the cards, the CAPTCHA? So give it a look through. It is a little bit different, but yeah, again, this is like the culmination. This is the word we use when we talk about design in general, but we never say the word. Like oddly, we're not walking around saying, how's the Gestalt looking on your piece? We talk about look and feel and stuff like that, but we never say Gestalt. But when we talk about look and feel, we are actually saying Gestalt. So that is like, as I said, just so everybody has a better understanding and knows how to say it, it's Gestalt. And it is the culmination of everything coming together into a single design piece so it works cohesively. And that's what that is. So let's talk about space and design. All right, pulling over the old drawing board. I double checked today and it switched itself sometime. So it is not me. I check every morning on my work area for this and it switches. All right. Let's check out space, the final in the elements. We'll take a break. We're not going to learn. Week 8 is about learning about how to set up a layout and a layout design. And then week 9, we'll get into the principles of design. So just in case you guys wanted a sneak preview about what's happening in the future and how we're doing stuff. So space refers to the area with and around objects in a composition. It plays a role in creating a sense of depth, defining relationship between elements, and influencing overall visual balance. All right. So, and that's what it is. It's, we can easily start to talk about, and I'll talk about it here, and I just like to run on, you know that, is like, if things feel crowded or they feel open, like we're going to be talking about all those things. And it is starting to get into how we feel about things, which is far more influenced in the principles of design. But we talk about this a little bit more here. But let's get rolling. Positive and negative space. Positive space. Get that cleared up. It's the occupied area. So I guess the best word is the shape of a person in the photograph. So like, you know, you have a photo. It's the subject matter. So if we put a subject matter here, like, and there's nothing else, and maybe there's just like a background. So the positive space is this space. It's the subject matter. Then, let's see what to do with here. The negative space is all the space around the main subject matter. That's the difference. Now, we can flip-flop, and it doesn't, like, this little drawing is just showing like a simplified version of that. But like, you can change it and be like, okay, there's a tree and a car, you know, like, or a tree, I ran out of space, and I'll put it in a house. So in this, the positive space, you know, the shape of a person to photograph. So now we have 3 subject matters in the positive space, and the negative space is still like the area around what we want people to pay attention to. So even if you have a design piece and you have a title and some words, and if you have like a bunch of circles and designs in it, the positive space is the stuff that you want people to pay attention to, and the negative space is kind of like the design stuff you put in the background. It is equally important. It's equally important. It does, if you don't have any negative space in a piece, it ends up feeling really cramped and really awkward. And it's, as beginning designers, as we talk about, we were like, okay, the title is going to be from edge to edge and really big. And then I'm going to fill the space up with words. And then I have a picture and another picture. And that's what we do, because we have this sense of like, I don't know what it comes from growing up, but this idea where we have to fill in all the space. And I think it's just kind of like, you do it because you can. And we do it, you know, like when we're coloring, we color all the space, like color the entire page. Come on, you know, kiddo, just color in everything. And then we're like, oh, so like this is all jammed up. But if we do something, and I have the logo here, and I have maybe a couple lines of text, and then the 2 smaller images, put a little X defined, like this, you know, like super crammed up, and it doesn't feel good. Things are on top of each other, touching. Here, it's the same information, but we just kind of like separated it out. So we have a title, some words, 2 images, and there's lots of negative or empty space around things. So we know where the subject matters are, as compared to this one where there's no negative space. We don't know what are we talking about here? What do we got going on? It's just like too much. You'll start to hear from me, and as we get into these 2 design projects, where I'll say like, don't, like 90%, like I'll say like 50% of the kids, 90% of the time, 50% of the students will jam everything in, and I'll be like, no, okay, you made the text too big. Like everything you made was too big. There's no negative space left in the piece. So that's just something to think about when we're doing that. And like, that's like a big one. That's like my biggest most important part when it comes to graphic design is understanding that positive space and the negative space, and making sure that when you do a design, that there is negative space in there. All right, creating depth. We have foreground, middle ground, and background. Let's see, no. Which is, you know, I have to draw it like this. We have our person, foreground, further back is the tree, middle ground, and in the background is the house. I don't have to do much to create that sense of foreground, middle ground, and background. It's all like how you place it. You can do it so many different ways, but it just kind of creates depth. You can do it simply by overlapping. This is foreground, this is middle ground, and this is background. You can do it with shading. You can do it like a ton of different ways, but it's really cool when you do it. I don't know, like, we all have design styles. You may not have one. I'm not saying you have to develop one, but what happens over time is we know what we like in our mind's eye, and we tend to do it a lot. I don't tend to do a lot of kind of dimensional, really depthy stuff. I'm pretty flat designer. I like to do it sometimes, but I'm never thinking about like, oh, I'm gonna make this look like it's further away, stuff like that. Maybe I should. I do it once in a while, but I know it's not like a key thing for me to do. Well, we just talked about this. Spatial relationships, or we just kind of talked about it as well. Arrangement of it's the arrangement of elements in relation to each other that gives us this. So it's like or things are, oh, that's the big one. If things are placed close together, people think they go together, and that's a huge rule. And we do that in all sorts of design. And I just talked about the overlap. So we just talked about overlap there. But if I have a piece and I have like little sections, and I like to say there's like a little design through there, and then it's another, and then like it's another design element, and then I have like this, and then there's a picture. All right. The way I have this weirdly thing laid out is the proximity makes us believe that these two items go together, these two items go together, and these two items go together. So we have to look at that when we're designing pieces that have a lot of information, or not even a lot of information. We need to break it up. We'll work on something in the future called hierarchy. What's most important to what's least important, and then we try to also then group things together. Here's a good one, a good idea. So I have the date. If we have like a poster and it's like, here's the venue, and then we have all the information, but we wouldn't put like Tuesday, May 4th, and then a bunch of other stuff, and then at the bottom put at 8 p.m. Because the 8 p.m. should be up with the date. You know, like we want to read those things together. Proximity of objects, and it's not, when we say objects in design, it should really say design elements. Is like things like the date. They should be put close together in proximity to each other so we understand that they go together. It gets kind of heady, I guess. And yeah, we talked about the overlapping to create different kind. balance and composition, visual balance, proper distribution of positive and negative space contributes to visual balance within a composition. An imbalance can create tension or instability. Well, there's something here, because we are going to talk about balance in 2 weeks. And there is symmetrical balance. 1, 2. Or there is like an asymmetrical balance, 1, 2. This always is easiest. Symmetrical balance. Having works, and it's just like clean and simple and easy, and it's what we do. It's like the one we want to go to. This one, where if an imbalance is properly created, like this one, where we maybe have the subject matter's got a little bit more information and it's not split 50-50. This, though, maybe creates some tension or instability. It can be far more, may I say, entertaining to look at. It'll keep the viewer involved more if you have an imbalance in that. But it has to be done right. That's the other part, is like starting out, we do a lot of designs where we do simple balance. I want equal, 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 equal. It works and it makes a good, strong piece. But then we start going, this is boring. So what if I do here, here, and here, but then I'm gonna group up these last 4 over here, or the last 6 over here. Like whatever that does in that composition, we're still keeping all the information, but now we're going to rearrange it in a different way, and we're going to create positive and negative spaces that aren't equal throughout. Like, this one, it's all equal. In between here, we create a big open space, but that may work for the design, and that may make the design far more entertaining to look at and keeps people interest. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep people's interest, keep them looking, keep them understanding what is going on. All right, atmosphere and mood, open and closed. I can have a beautiful, open, airy piece. Like we got a title, we got some text, and we got a long image, beautiful, open. Or I can have something here, and here, and here. And then I got some text, and I got another thing here, and then a title. Like open, closed. Each one works in a different way. A design with more negative space may feel open, airy, and calm, while a design with less negative space can feel dense, active, or intense. So it all depends on what we're working on. You get, you're working for, I don't know, I was going to say a soap company. That was so wrong. Luxury hotel. They'll do their designs, and it'll be, like luxury hotel. And they'll just like have that script, Luxor. And then just something at the bottom. And that's it. And they're like, it's just so open and airy. You know what I mean? And then you go to like, and then you see something for a monster truck rally where the whole thing is just like mud, dirt, and this and that. And it's like Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. And it's all crazy. It works for different systems, That's why we do it. Sorry, I'm stopping sometimes because of the drilling. Isolation. Using negative space strategically can isolate or emphasize specific elements. That's why they do it here. They just want you to look at the logo. We're going to have this white, and then on the page, the logo may be even just like embossed. And so like you can only see it in a certain light, and it looks like they're giving you a white piece of paper, but it's just the impression of the logo. is just on the top of the page. That's like that isolation where they want you to really look at one spot. We use it. I mean, I've been talking about the application of this since time, like we started today. And it's all about how you manipulate space to create different effective layouts and advertisements. It's part of your job, and it develops and it becomes a natural thing. You just always end up doing it. Here's 2 ways to talk about it. Linear perspective, just so you know if it does come up. Linear perspective is if we do let's see here. I'm trying to think of I can't really draw it really good with this stuff. I was trying to think if I had a better way to draw it without switching programs. I'm not going to switch programs. It's this, like you always see this, like it goes back, and then if I draw this, and I could draw a cube in this space, it's linear perspective. That was horrible. Like all lines converge into one area. That is linear perspective. Sorry for my cruddy drawing of that. Linear perspective, like one of the first times in its most famous use is the Last Supper. Is that like Jesus's head is the center, and all lines, no matter what on the piece, like converge to his head. And so that's how they like develop the perspective. And that's why that piece is also so famous. It is the first time that like this linear perspective style was kind of really done in a public piece. And then the aerial perspective is using color and contrast to simulate the effective atmospheric conditions. So if you look outside, it's like when you look at a picture of the sky and where is it darkest, where is it lightest, the atmosphere, particles in the atmosphere make things further away less dark, lighter, because we're starting to see particles. Think of yesterday. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago when we had the foggy days? Is that last week? I have no idea where my days are. Whenever those foggy days are, why can't you see in a fog? That's a great way to think about what we call aerial perspective, is things that are further away are harder to see. And that's it. And we do it with color. So finally, space in places. A big thing that we're doing nowadays, which I love and I've done, is interactive spaces. Think of museums, children's museums, Discovery World, any of those places where we build the space out, but then add all our graphics into the space to make the space far more inviting to others. It's like the walls have messages. Everywhere you look, there's messages, and it becomes an interactive space. And you'll learn more. There's a class in here that teaches that, but you'll learn more about that. But it is, it's so much fun to have like giant words on the walls and like places to direct you. One way to think about the interactive spaces is some places at MATC, if you come here and you get off the elevator, there's a giant number outside of the door when you get off the elevator. It's not everywhere, but it's there. So like when you walk off the elevator, there's not just a tiny 2, but they made an interactive space where the 2 is like giant and in front of you, or the 3 and the 4. So like you know what floor you're on. We designed it into the space. So that's still somewhat new, but it's being done more and more and more, and it just makes really a big difference. Let's talk about some pieces. Let's create some space. Here, I love this piece because it is based on a negative space. It's a negative of a positive. So it's like, wait, it's not at night because it's a night sky, but the buildings are white. So it's a reverse of what we would do to simulate the space. the buildings are just a shape, right? That's all it is. But then we have this tear at the bottom to make it look like, wait, is it cut paper? What is it? But just this simple shapes, which we assume is a skyline on a black background, if you kind of like just concentrate maybe on this area, you're like, there's so much depth there because you just kind of know. Your mind knows what's going on. And it's such an easy way to create depth. And this is almost like that overlapping one. You go back and look at all those things that I drew over already. This is doing, all these pieces are doing it. So pretty great, pretty simple, like downright simple. One color design. And that's kind of why I showed it. It's like one color plus, we could call this gray. But it's like a one color design that has everything there for us. And then simply at the bottom is the information. And that's also a great design setup as well, is they have it broken out. And this is that spatial, the relationship of what goes together. We have the logo at the top alone. We want to see that logo. Then we have the name of the event, boom. And when is the event? So the name and when is the event placed together. And then we're going to break this into two. We have the information about the event and then their partners. So this covers off on a couple of those. Everyone will, but just showing straight off the bat, you can do it with just pure black and white. Atmospheric perspective. Here we have it coming in full bore. We have the pirate ship coming in forward, and it fades into the background to that light is coming in. The airplane sharp over here, and it starts to get harder to see. Everything is doing that atmospheric design perspective. I don't want to really call it perspective, but the use of space and how they define that space. And it's simply done with color to create an atmosphere to have us feel like, oh boy, these things are going away and they're going like around the earth and in the sun, like it's just giving us a different view of how things are working. And then of course we have our spatial setup where one part is up here and the rest of the information, we have one set here in one color. And then if we were to go down, it would be all the information. So how did we space these informational pieces out as well as creating a beautiful design that really brings us into what's happening in the movie? I really like this one because there's so much depth, but it's simply created because of such like drastic lighting that we see all these blocks. And I don't think it would come across if these were lighter. Like if the lighting was less intense and these areas of shadow here were lighter, I don't think it would look as cool. I drew that one right. I just don't think it would look as cool. But they created that sense of depth. One of it is the 3D. We have a 3D modeling of the area, and then we have the changing in spaces of where we have the letters and the way the letters are situated. Like these are going this way, these are going this way, and just that sense creates depth. If I drew that, let me make it better. If I draw this, and I draw this, it starts to give us a sense of depth. Just the way that I drew these two, I believe they're parallelograms. They're not trapezoids. But that gives us a sense of that depth. And that's what this is doing as well with these ice blocks. But then again, what they're also doing is it's these heavy cement blocks and then ice blocks, which are fragile but heavy, and then they're creating this other kind of weird contrast with that. And it's pretty great. We can do it with all just type. Give that sense, why does type always have to be flat? I got two examples right here. This one's made out of ice. This one's made out of the substrate that looks like the background. But it's very cool, and it sets up a whole different way to look at it. It's way more fun to look at. It's way more work to do. I could just type this up and be done. But here, computer programming, and you know, they got to bring it in, and they got to render it, they got to make it look right. It's getting easier. I could do this in the past. I've lost some of my 3D design chops over the years, but I could do it again. But it would have been a pain. There's a lot of rendering that has to go on with lighting and stuff like that. But it's very cool, and I love this idea of some of the letters falling out. But here's the thing: I always think about this, and this is the designer mind, and this is what I want you all to start to get in the mode of thinking about: is why is something like it is? So I don't know what this melt is. Life, make, and things. I can't read what it says down here. And I'm very curious that if you look at the words, this letter, this letter, this letter, this letter, and this letter are the ones that are falling over, right? Why did they choose those letters to be the letters that are falling over? If I was doing it, wouldn't you do like a M-E-L-T? So you could do this M, this E, this L, and like this T. And then that way the melt letters were falling over or something like that. So I'm really curious about why they picked these certain letters to be kind of like falling forward to accentuate that depth. But that's those secret design things you can do sometimes. We use, you know, every once in a while we get a piece, and the design, we would need like a random set of numbers, you know, to simulate something. You put in like your birthday, you know, like the numbers mean something. In design, you try to have everything mean something. You're designing it. I don't know, you guys ever, you know, hear about all those like Easter eggs in movies when the Pixar people always put in the number 132 because that was the room, blah, 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 blah. We do that stuff. Designers do that stuff. If there's a random set of numbers, that random set of numbers is not random. Somebody put that in there, and they did it for a reason. So finally, 3 colors: sense of depth, layering, overlapping, foreground, middle ground, background, all done on the same piece with very subtle changes. And I love it. We have this gradient cutting through that helps us define some parts. We have, of course, the figure. We have the black swan, who is pointing at the name. The arrow pointing at the black swan, all done in red. So we know that the red is a significant part, excuse me. So we have the background, middle ground, foreground. The foreground's bringing us in. And then in the furthest foreground, we have feathers floating down. Notice actually, there's some overlap. These are in front, but then these go behind the words. So pretty cool. And it's all done. Look how plain and simple it is, but we do get a big sense of depth with this one. It's very, very similar to this one up here. Just 2 different ways. This one is that deep atmospheric style. And this is up close and in our face. So there we go. Any questions about space in design? All right. I talked about Gestalt. Let's do a quick look for some examples. Do this. Please don't make me log in. Do this. Oh, this is the last one. This is the last one we're going to do using Google. And then from here on out, we're going to start doing these using Illustrator and InDesign. So this is your last Google one. So just so you know, and I know like I am saying it. Oh, what happened? Where am I? Well, I didn't want those. No thanks. What happened to my themes? There they are. So we're going to start developing our own slides using the proper design. Oh, these are horrible. These are those average ones. Oh, I'll just use an average one. What else do they have? All right, I'll just do this. All right, click to add a title. Pulse. And this is space. Oh, how did that happen? My name. All right, I'm going to do 3-on-1 today. Oh, I have to cover that up. Is that part of the background? Shoot. All right, I'm going to make this smaller. Double click in there. Just going to type that in. Grab it, move it down. Woo, let's go. 1960s book covers. We go to images. We make sure we go to tools. We make sure we go to size and large. And we want something to give us a sense of space and depth. What is that? How are we seeing that? Is it just all foreground and flat? Or do we have something that we can build on and it looks like a lot of things are happening? Oh. Like why did it only give me like 3 book covers? Oh, look at this one. The way these go back and then circle around, like it's giving us that sense of depth. I'm going with it. It's very flat, but it gives us a sense of depth, but I'm going for it. For this one, I'm going to copy the image and I'm going to paste. We're going to make it smaller and make sure we grab that corner and we're scaling it. We're not cutting anything off. All right. This I should be able to copy paste. There we go. And make sure it's in line with that. Hold shift as I move it. Let's do album cover. And we're going to just change this. I don't know. Make sure my tools go to size, go to large. Got to always recheck that one, okay? You can't just, it's never the first one. You always just got to recheck it. I wanted to do this one because they're like pushed up against a piece of glass, but I think I can maybe do better. You know, it gives us that like idea like they're being squished in there. There's Dr. Pepper's or Stillwell, or this one. There's a lot of depth there. I'm just not a fan. I don't want to do it. Huh. Look at this. I think I can use this. It's like, you know, we got foreground, middle ground, background. I sort of hate it. Let's just do this one instead. Huh. I'm going to copy the image. Go paste. And for this one, I'm going to make it smaller because we have to fit other things in. I'm going to center it. And I'm going to move it over. And I'm going to copy and paste this. Make sure it's centered up. Move it over. And movie poster. Let's switch this to movie posters. Tools, size, large, something with depth. Wow. That's, look at that one. Copy image. It's weird. It's a square poster. I'm going to crop off the white. No, I can't. It's going to get too close to the edges. So I want to make these the same size. So I got to make this smaller. And then let's do, I'm checking my distances. If I do this, I'm going to hold down Shift, grab both of those, and I'm going to pull this to that point. So that's an indicator that now my spacing is equal. I'm going to have this one come down. So like, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll switch these. It's always about the design. Okay. And I want to do, I'm going to move this. Let's see if I can't draw a shape. And color it. And then I'm going to have no. Oh, I just have to make that this color. There we go. I didn't want that white thing there. So who's the designer? You're the designer. When there's something that's there that shouldn't be there, get rid of it. I'm going to go to Object. I want to arrange and put this to top. Arrange, order, bring to front. And there we go. Now I don't have that dumb white dot there. Get that lined up with the top. This one's lined up with the top. It's quarter to quarter, quarter to quarter. And then this one, I'm eyeballing. I know that left side, but I'm checking the distance. And there we go. Space. You know how to do this. You've done this now. This will be your 8th time creating this document in this style, making sure it's perfect. Everybody's doing a great job at these. Keep it up. Once again, next week we'll change a little bit. Big changes coming next week in a positive way. New things are going to be happening. But Thursday, I will remind you about that. And Thursday, we will work on the space project together. All right. And the final design practice. So if there's no other questions, I'm around. If I don't talk to you on the discussion boards, I will talk to you on Thursday. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.